Hi everyone, I'm Mark Harrison and this is A History of Rome. In today's special episode we're going to take a look at the 12 Tables. First enacted in 449 BC, the 12 Tables have been put together by two special commissions of 10 men. They put into writing the rights and responsibilities of Roman citizens for the first time. Previous to this, the law had been unwritten and its interpretation had been the exclusive right of the College of Pontiffs. Now, for the first time, all citizens could point to equality under the law as it was laid down before them. The tables themselves are no longer complete, but what remains is still fairly extensive. There's no time here to go through every item, but selected highlights from each table will help to give an understanding of their content. The first three tables relate to matters of court, specifically proceedings prior to any trial, matters relating to the trial itself and the execution of judgment. They explained, among other things, that any person summoned to court is legally obliged to attend, and if they do not, that the plaintiff had the right to go and seize them. But if non-attendance was due to infirmity or sickness, then the plaintiff must send the defendant a carriage. However, he was of no legal obligation to put cushions in it. Non-attendance by either party, it was written, forced the magistrate to find in favour of the other, and the time limit on proceedings such as this was noted as sunset. These first tables also set out the amount to be paid in cases of litigation. If owning a property of under 1,000 assis, then the payment would be 50 assis, with 500 assis being paid for property over 1,000 assis. Should a person be liable to confess debt or a court fine, then he would be given 30 days in which to pay. If after this time he had not paid, then the person to whom he owed the money would have the right to bind him with a thong or fetters, the minimum weight of which had to be 15 pounds. The debtor could then be brought before the praetor for the next 3 successive days, and if the debt was still unpaid by the end of this time, then the person will be subject to death or slavery. Now, Rome was a very patriarchal society, and Table 4 dealt specifically with patriarchal power, including the law that gave fathers the power of life and death over their sons. But there was a get-out clause, for a son that had been offered for sale 3 times by his father would become free of his authority. Also notable in this section were the rules governing children. In the case of deformed offspring, it was the responsibility of the father to kill them immediately. And any male child born within 10 months of his father's death would still enter into inheritance. Inheritance and guardianship were extensively covered in Table 5. It stated that any bequest made by a person with respect to property or guardianship had the force of law. Should anyone die without an heir, then the estate of the deceased would pass to the nearest male agnate. And should that not be possible, then a male clansman would inherit the estate. Should someone die intestate and with no direct heir, the beneficiary would then be the dead person's patron. This table specifically stated that women, even of full age, must remain under guardianship. The reason given is due to a woman's levity of brain, the exception to this law being the Vestal Virgins. Table 6 dealt primarily with ownership and possession. A couple of key points from this are that verbal contracts were considered to be legally binding, and that if a woman who lives with a man as his wife does not wish to become owned by him, she must absent herself from the household for 3 consecutive nights in any one year. Property is dealt with in Table 7. It laid out regulations such as the width of roads, clearance of houses, marking of boundaries, pruning of trees, and repairs to properties. It also noted the rules pertaining to rights on trees, and that the ownership of fruit falling from the trees, should the tree be part of one property with its fruit fallen on another, it belongs to the owner of the tree. Table 8 covers law of injury to person and damage to property. A person injured by another had the right to injure the perpetrator in the same way, or to claim monetary compensation. The singing or composing of an incantation to dishonour or disgrace another carried the death penalty, as did the stealing of crops. This latter offence required the death penalty to be carried out as a sacrifice to Ceres, the goddess of agriculture and the harvest. But those before the age of puberty, however, would be spared this and instead receive a scourging. Thieves could be legally killed if they struck at night, but during the day the property owner was obliged to simply shout for help. Usury was legislated to not exceed a rate of 1/12, and a payment of 25 assis must be paid for cutting down another's tree. Patrons who defrauded a client were to be accursed, and the bearing of false witness was to be punished by being thrown from the Tarpeian Rock. Public law was covered by Table 9, with the most significant part being that it was forbidden to put to death any person without trial and unconvicted. Table 10 focused on sacred law. This looked at practical measures for the disposing of the dead. It mandated that no body should be buried or burnt within the city, and it also forbade the collection of a person's bones for reburial. An exception to this rule was given in the case of those who had fallen in battle on foreign soil. More curious aspects of law here included a prohibition on the addition of gold to a corpse, and a constraint on women crying or making sorrowful noises at funerals. The final tables, 11 and 12, were supplementary laws that were added by the Second Decemvirate. They included the banning of marriage between the plebeian and patrician classes, and the recognition that whatever the people ordained last should legally be valid. To modern eyes, the laws contained in these tables may appear strange or perhaps even quaint, but there is also much that can be recognised as being akin to what many of us would expect from our own law-making bodies today. Whatever the case, this was a set of laws for its time which proved remarkably durable. It defied much of what is meant to be Roman for the next 1,000 years. If you like our work, please help by subscribing, pressing the bell button and commenting. And we'll see you next time on A History of Rome.